I've sold a couple hundred houses, and I've never seen anything like the Easy Real Estate Offer platform before. So I'm going to show you how a transaction works and show you the sciences behind it so that you can see why it works and what the results are going to be. Okay?
Okay, so we're gonna look at a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with my house.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because we're going to show you an actual transaction that has taken place, which, you can see again, this is how it works. I'm going to show you the science. So what we've got in front of us now is that transaction data sheet that we're going to be working with. Cute little blue house, nice deck in front of it. But the
Doesn't look
first
like
thing
my
I want to
house.
show you is, you see the CDOM? That means cumulative days on market. And it's 6. Okay. So
Okay.
6 basically means that they put the house on the market on a Thursday. They ended the listing on that Monday, and they were under contract on Tuesday.
That's a
So
pretty short amount of time.
that's a very short amount of time. Now look at the next thing. They started it off at $389,000, and they ended up with $478,950. That's quite a difference, between Thursday and Tuesday, don't you think?
Yeah, so just by going with you, I'm gonna get 100,000 more for my house?
Pretty much. That's
Well,
that's what they're saying. But let me show
I'd
you
like to
how
see
that
how this
works.
happens. Yeah, I don't understand how this works.
I know. Well,
I know
that's
market
why we're
values
going
are
to do
good,
this.
and yeah, market values are good, and people are buying, but that seems like 100,000 seems a lot.
It does. But you've got to do the right. You got to follow the sciences, and then that way you can get the benefits, because, Easy Real Estate Offer platform's been around for about 7 years. They've done a lot of these type of bidding events, and it works. They've proven it
It's a
over and over and over again, as long as you follow what you're supposed to do with it. So,
is a platform like an auction thing,
well,
like a
sort of,
you know?
but it's not an auction, because auctions, if you get the highest bid in there, you're able to secure you're able to secure that item. But with this, the seller is able to accept, reject, or negotiate any offer that comes through.
Hey, Michael,
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
cut you off right there.
Okay.
All of these things he's throwing out your objections. We don't need to ever talk about an auction right now.
So I should be responding. Well, we'll get to that. Let me show you.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let me show you. The other thing is too, right out of the gate, he said, so I'm going to be looking at a bunch of homes that had nothing, that don't apply to me. Well, no, actually, this does apply to you. This is a transaction that I remember, common ground. This is a transaction with the seller, just like you, that thought it was a gimmick. Tell the whole, get him
The
more
story.
and engage
Yeah.
with. And then the other thing is too, so I'm going to make $100,000. Well, let me show you how this customer made $100,000. Keep tying it back, stay inside the story, because you're going to get off into these tangents and there is no way to recover. Always come back to, let me finish the story. And even if you want to, if this makes you more comfortable out of the gate, listen, if you have any questions about the way this thing did, by the time I get done going through this working transaction, I think a lot of your questions are going to be answered.
That's a good way to counter most of the objections that are coming up that I'm throwing at them is, let me get through the whole thing and you'll see the answers as we go. I like that. That's good.
The seller is going to distract you every stinking time. To diffuse that, so I'm just looking at a bunch of homes that, well, no, that's not exactly true. This seller, quite honestly, Trevor, was just like you. You thought it was a gimmick. You're only going to give me 15 minutes of your time. This seller was doing the same thing. So let me show you how this will benefit you. Any huge questions on that, let me answer at the end, because most likely they're all going to get explained. I promise you, I'm only going to use 15 minutes and I'm going to show you this transaction from A to Z, which is going to help you decide how much we need to list a home for.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, so let's pretend that you've already said that to Trevor now. So we've already got the price and the selling price. So, and when you say it, the listing price, let me show you how they got $478,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me show you how they got $478,000. All right, we're going to actually go to the platform now.
Yep.
This
Okay.
should be
You got
queued
that.
up on your computer, ready to go.
All right, so this is the same house that we just showed you the MLS data sheet on, but this is on the EZ Real Estate Offer platform. Okay,
This is where the buyers have to go to make an offer on my house.
right. I'll show you how that works. And just, if we scroll down to the red and blue boxes, you'll see that the auction is closed and the final bidding price is 451,500. Now, how many bids do you think that it took to get there from that initial 389?
10 maybe.
Well, let's look. And we scroll down to see where the bids, you see now it got 22 bids. Now, how many
22 people?
bidders? No.
Yeah, 22 people made offers.
How many bidders do you think that there were to get that 22 bids?
22.
No, because if you look down here, this is the beginning of the auction.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people that are bidding on this. Now, if you notice, we started off at the 389, okay? And they had 100 people through this open house. So the science says that they're going to get 10% of those people to be actual bidders on the auction or bidders on the bidding event.
So you're saying here, I get 10% of people are going to come to the open house. They're going to put an offer in.
Most likely, that's the science behind it. And now let's see what happens when that does happen. Okay. So now Star, see, came in here with the first bid at 410,000, which was what, $20,000 more than the 389. So she knocked out half of those registered bidders. Okay. Now let's get back to the bidders for a second. To register to bid, they've got to prove that they can actually buy the house. So they've got to provide a proof of funds, and that proof of funds, they're going to, put in the documents right here. This is where they're going to put that in. It's a pretty simple process. There's also an addendum, which we're going to get into later, that explains this entire process that everybody needs to agree to before they can actually bid on the property. Okay. So we'll get into that in a second, but let's get back to how the numbers worked on this one. Okay. So
sounds like a lot of work.
No, watch. It's actually pretty easy. You as the seller, yeah, you've got to, get your house ready, but then it's up to them to get the rest of it done.
You're doing way too much explaining and you're not setting up the story, Mike. You got to be telling them this stuff here. The objection when you're in the ML's detail sheet. Here's the listed price. The objective, the science behind the listed price is that we're going to get 100 people to the open house. The science says if we have 100 people come through and look at your property, and this is an NAR statistic, it's not even mine. 10% of those are going to be making offers, and you got to get compliance with them. Okay. You're going into these tangents again instead of just staying inside the story. He doesn't care how people about them getting pre-qualified right now. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because this is going to end up being an hour and a half presentation, and he's going to throw you out.
Yeah.
So just condense it down, set this thing up, out of the gate. Yeah, just like I do in my things. And this guy, was resistant, just like you. My objective, the science behind this thing, if I get 100 buyers through the open house, in this case, we happen to get 100 through the open house, and we always know there's going to be at least 10 buyers. Try to set that stuff elsewhere instead of throwing it helter-skelter in the middle of things.
And that's a NAR stat, the 10%. I didn't know that. I just made a note of that because it's always good to throw a NAR stat out.
Yeah. I think it's even higher now. But, and also too, I know with my open houses, 10% is a minimum if I do my job.
Right.
But I know how many people are getting qualified at the open house. So again, try to set things up so he's not constantly interrupting with these dumb questions.
Okay.
If you set the story up better, he's not going to have these things. But if you go off on these tangent, he's going to get you out of where you need to be for this slide. Once you get to this point here, all you want to talk about is there's 22 bids. When he starts getting obnoxious, you got to ring him back in. God, yeah, good point. I'm glad you're so excited about it, but just hang on. I'm going to get excited about this too. Just wait till you see what happens at the end of this thing. What this seller, vacations, cars. I mean, you can throw in little innuendos like that, or so I have some fun with it. The more you do this, the easier it gets, right?
Build the suspense.
If we have to have control of the seller, or even with the sciences, it's a 50-50 at best. All right, so let's go back to this thing here. Trevor, be a little easier. Human Christmas. You're one of those guys that go, well, geez, you know everything, don't you?
Yeah, right.
Here's a computer. Why don't you tell me how it works?
Now it's because he's been hanging out with that other guy that he's been playing with out there.
I'll tell you, Donnie is right to the
He's
point and just
That guy's a machine.
direct as can be.
He's
And,
unbelievable.
and he's made his own story up. And that's what you guys will do when you have your own. It'll be your own story instead of using one of ours.
Right. That's why I can't wait to get a few in so I can actually create something around that.
Right.
Use an MLS sheet, a comp from my own from Vermont, as opposed to
And
like
this is
one
what
from
I
my
did.
state.
So Trevor, let's take a look at this, what happened here. Okay, so there's 22 bids. And so how many buyers do you think were involved to get that 22 bids?
We'll see it now. It looks like we just looking at this, seeing looks like the first 5 or 6 bids were just 2 buyers.
That's right. Now, as you go up, you see that there's another buyer that popped in here. So there were 3 of them. But if you go back to the first bid by Star, it was $20,000 above the opening bid price. She knocked out half of the bidders doing that.
Now, why didn't she just take that bid? The sellers that was ready to go.
The seller really wanted to. The seller was so freaking excited.
Yeah, I bet he was.
The agent told me, it's like, okay, this is the amount that I wanted to list my house for at a 6% commission. So I'm making all of that money for myself. Let's just take it and be done.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Agent, he knew the science. He knew that there were 10 qualified bidders on this property. And he convinced the seller, Alan, to just let it ride out. To hold on a second, see what happens. And then let's see what happened. The bids continued to go up and up and up and up. In fact, at the last, 5 o'clock on that Monday when the bidding ended, there were 2 bidders that kept bidding, and they tried to do the sneaky thing and came in, right at the end. And
that's what I would do.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens? What do you think happens when they put in a bid at the last minute?
If I were me, I'd win just like I do on eBay.
No, they add 2 minutes onto the event. So, and again, this is completely transparent, so everybody can see it. Everybody gets notified. So the other bidders can say, "Oh, I just got outbid by $1,000. Gosh darn it! So I'm going to put in another $1,000." And so it ended.
And that extends the
20
bid time a few more minutes, so everybody else gets to come back in again, put some more money on my house if they like it.
Right. Exactly. They're
Cool.
Fighting over your house.
I like that.
That's fun. That's why I want to be there the last 20 minutes with you so that we can watch the frenzy. But 20 minutes after, so 5:20, there were 10 additional bids, and it ended up at the 451,500.
It's the same person that made the first bid right there, Homes by Star.
Exactly. The science worked. And what is the benefit from getting that science done? That bid. So now let me show you what that all means and how we got there. Okay, so again, this is the original, MLS data sheet. And
right, 389. Yeah, we listed low.
Right. And I'll show you the science behind that as we go here. Now, if you'll notice, the selling price was actually $478,950. Now, do you remember what the final bid price was?
It's like 451 or something.
Perfect. Okay,
So
remember
I
these
got even more
numbers.
money. I got even
So
more
let me-
money now.
Let me show you what that is all about, okay? All right, this is the actual purchase contract, okay, for this transaction. So notice right here in the purchase contract,
Yeah.
there's that 478,590 again,
Yeah. Yeehaw.
okay?
Yeah.
And you know, again, it's the whole thing here. This is, you know, it's a normal purchase contract for, you know, this guy out there. But remember I told you that there is an addendum that explains what the how the process worked? Remember that?
I think so. Something about, yeah, I don't remember it, but I remember you talking about it.
Okay. Well, let me take a look at it here with you and show you why this is important and what it does for us, okay? All right. So here's the easy real estate offer addendum. Okay.
Is that
we
all the
did-
inspections the guy had to do? You just showed me all those documents that all they have to do all those inspections?
No, the inspections, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me
Cool.
finish with this here so
Thanks.
that you can see what it's what it's doing. All right. So this is filled out before anybody can bid. And this is all, you know, explained to everybody so that they know what's going on. So we've got the original offer price of the 389. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then it explains it's completely transparent. It tells everybody how it's going. So the seller reserves the right to accept, counter, or reject any bid. It's got the bid times, and then it defines what is called a buyer's premium. Now, the buyer's premium is the difference between the bid price and that final sale price. Remember I told you to remember those two numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the commission,
how
basically.
the real estate agents get paid, is from that
Yeah.
buyer's premium.
Okay.
Okay.
So the
So
buyers
that
are paying the
6%
commission.
gets added on to the 451, right? And what's
So the
that end up?
buyers are paying the commission, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But I thought our NAR just said the buyers can't pay the commission.
No, this isn't that. This is a buyer's premium. You know, just like the banks were doing, you know, back in the day, they've been doing it for 40 years. We're not the first one to come up with a buyer's premium on anything. So this is completely legal. It's already been, you know, figured out. So anyway, let me continue to go through this for you. All commissions will be paid out of the accepted bid price. Okay. So the 6% is added to the final bid price, and that's how we get that 478.
Oh, sorry, the 478 numbers there. Okay.
Okay. So that's how that worked. Now let me show you, you know, where we
Hang on, Mike.
Yep.
So when Trevor said, I thought buyers couldn't pay the commission,
uh-huh.
why didn't you ask him, where did he hear that? Where in the hell did he hear that from? Because that's not true. And the only
Right,
place
it's-
it is
it's the
technically
sellers.
true is VA, and even VA wiped it out. So you left this herring sitting out there again. That's where this dialogue comes. When somebody throws out something stupid to you, throw it back in their face. Jimmy
Okay.
Chris, where the hell do you hear that? In fact, the NAR thing is making buyers pay the commission.
Right.
So you can't move on. The most important part of this thing is paragraph number 3. So, Mr. Trevor, so in this case, the final bid was 451,500. The purchase amount that you saw in there was 478, yada, 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 right?
Yeah.
So number 3, buyer's premium shall be 6% collected from the buyer. So that 6% that we're collecting from them, you've accepted 450, in this case, the seller accepted 451.5 on the final bid. Right? Right,
Yeah,
Trevor?
absolutely. Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
So when we add in the 6% to compensate the buyer agent and me, that brought that price up from 451.5 to 478.
They actually pay that. I mean, it's a ton of money. It's like we came out of 389, you know?
Yeah, they actually paid it, and here's the great news about it. By the time we add that on too and write the purchase sale agreement, it just becomes a regular transaction. The banks don't know, the appraisers don't know, nobody knows.
So it doesn't knock buyers out, PMI, any of that kind of stuff doesn't affect any of their loan.
They actually can take the, so this is, if he asked me that, boy, Trevor, what, are you a lender? Are you a real estate? agent?
No,
All this
no, I
stuff.
saw it on TikTok.
TikTok. Are you playing drums?
I read it on TikTok. Yeah.
The only thing that matters on this sheet, Michael, is that extra money that is being put in the purchase sale agreement is being used to compensate. Would you agree? You accepted the 451.5 in a traditional transaction. That's what the purchase sale agreement would be.
And I'd pay 6% commission on that.
Yep. But
that
in this
451.
case here, we're adding the 6% onto the bid price that you accepted.
So my 451 never gets touched. That's mine. And you guys are above and beyond with this addendum is what that creates for the agents for themselves. I walk away with my money.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
100%.
that's the way to deal with this thing here. That's all that matters. So yeah, we use this little thing called a buyer's premium. The buyers are paying. By the way, you know, you did say, by the way, we're not the first ones to use the buyer's premium. It's been around for 100 years. Banks have always used it in their foreclosure deals. So this is something that's been in real estate for 100. The only thing we've done differently is that we've taken and put it into traditional listings. Easy to
Okay.
explain it, right? That make
Yep.
more
No,
sense?
perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And then remember, before you get into all this stuff, you've told the story. The story is, hey,
Right.
there's this guy in Seattle, you know, that made the site, or you guys can say, you know, one of my partners, try to tie in so you build credibility. This is one of my partner's transactions in the Seattle area. He's another certified agent with like me. Let me just tell you what had happened. So he met this guy in a Starbucks, you know, kind of, now you start tying in together, just, geez, kind of like I did with you. Or
Right.
he had a for sale by owner, if it's for sale by owner. You try to tie it in to him. Or it's an expired listing. Yeah, he had an expired listing just like that. We sent him out a letter, just like you responded to it. And then he gave me 15 minutes to come explain this thing, explain the EZ real estate platform. And he thought it was a gimmick out of the gate. But you know what? He gave me the time just like you did. So long story short, we listed his home. We had 100 people come to the open house. The seller made enough money on this thing to, instead of, you tell them, traditionally the home was worth $400,000. The seller was willing to sign a traditional listing, the $400,000. And then, you know, he was going to pay the commission. So we get paid 6%. So that $400,000 is going to basically just say that he would have lost. Before you show him any of this stuff, you're telling him that.
Even before the net sheets. Like I
Even
made those
before
net
the-
sheets. I don't pull out till later. Okay.
Then what this is for, now we're proving it with the transaction. We're tying as many loose ends to him as we can. So, you know, your home's worth more than that. But in this case here, traditionally, he was going to list the home. 9 other realtors, the highest one was $400,000 traditional. My partner happened to agree the same thing. It was $400,000 on it. But my partner also knows that we wanted to get 100 people into the open house. So I'm going to explain through this process how that, and the science is behind how this happens. So in this case, 100 people came through. He had 10 qualified people go through the thing and get qualified at the open house. And at the end of it, he made enough money to buy a car, to go on a vacation, to rent. He was relocating to Florida. He went out of the politics in Washington. 6 months, he was able to go. Instead of $400,000, he would have had to go to Florida and find something before it closed.
I feel like the hardest part for me with this is just kicking it off, getting it started. I think once it's going, I could probably roll with it pretty well. It's getting it kicked off.
That's why I'm saying you give them a snapshot of what you're showing them. You just tell them, this is what I'm going to show you. This is an actual closed real estate transaction, just like yours is going to be.
All right. So, you know, again, this is the residential purchase and sale agreement for the transaction. So there's that 478,590 that we talked about.
Yeah, the big number.
Okay. So let me show you how that all ferrets out. So this is the actual settlement statement from that transaction. It's the final settlement statement. Okay, so there's the 479 or 478,950. Okay. And then down here, this is where the real estate commissions are taken out. Okay. So, you know, he was able to pay off of the loan that he had left on his house. And down here, he had $315,000 that he could walk away with. So
That's after the realtors got paid?
after the realtors got paid. Instead of the realtor commission coming out of that, that's what he got.
Yeah, and
So-
after $164,000 that he had owed before that.
Yeah. So he paid off everything. And so
Yeah, my
what
loan's
does
like
that-
150, so this makes sense for me.
So he was able to get his house, move down to Florida where he wanted to go, get out of Washington by movers, not a U-Haul. Okay. Remember packing stuff up yourself and you know, moving it from one place to another? He was able to hire
fun.
somebody to do that for him. How nice is that? He was able
I-
to buy a car.
Yeah, I'm not planning. I didn't plan on that, but I'd sure like to hire someone to do that stuff. I get some extra cash out of this.
He was able to rent a place down there while he looked for his perfect dream home in Florida because he had the extra money to do that. And he
That'd
had
be
some
great.
fun. And it was easy.
And you're going to do all this.
So let's talk about your place and we can figure out what it's going to take to do the same thing that was done here with Alan's deal with yours. Okay? It's just science. We got to run with the science and figure out where that's going to be. Okay? But let me show you, you know, how we figured it out for him. Okay, so we started off with, you know, the 410,000, which is what the market value is that we've done that before. The real estate commissions on there were 24
Hang on,
cents.
hang on. It's got to be traditional versus the easy real estate method.
Didn't I say traditional?
This is traditional.
Yeah, I thought I did.
You didn't say traditional.
Okay, sorry. This is the traditional way of doing things. Okay.
No, the traditional way of selling a home.
So, you know, the traditional way of selling a home is that, you know, the seller pays the commission for the realtors in the process. So if you start off with $410,000, which is the market value, you take off the realtor's commission, which is 24,006, and you
Yeah.
end up with 385,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's what the bid started at. It looks like almost.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So,
Okay, Michael, be more specific. $410,000 was the market value of the
right,
home. All right. Your commission that you pay is 24,600, not closing costs and not what you owe on the house. Let's just pretend the house is owned outright down here. This is what you could expect to net with it because you're paying the commissions, 385, 400. And then does that make sense to you, Trevor?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so we do
And
it.
again, you can throw out then, of course, there's going to be closing costs. And of course, you know, you have fixed costs. We'll get into those. But right now we're just, I want you to understand how the commissions get paid. So basically, you're going to sell your house for 410. You're going to pay out the commissions. What you're going to put in your pocket is $385,400. Now let's talk about the easy method.
okay. So with that, we've got the opening bid price of 389. There is no other fees in here for realtors. So you get the entire 389.
Because that buyer premium pays for what the realtors are supposed to get
Right.
from me.
So
Oh,
look at the difference. Okay. You're actually making more.
yeah, it's like
The
no
easy
$3,500,
way.
$3,600. Yeah.
Now let's look at what happened after the bidding.
Well,
was-
hang on. We don't want to leave here yet. So
Okay.
if I get one bid on the home, just one, at 389. Right? This is
Right.
where you start tying in the 100 people to it. Now, when you're in the first net sheet, so $410,000, and how many, just at a traditional value, how many buyers you think are going to come to an open house, or how many buyers are going to walk through the house? And let him tell you. Trevor, what would you say to that on the 410?
Probably 10 people, maybe 10 couples would come to my open house.
10 couples? Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
How many offers
It's
can
pretty
we
busy.
expect out of 10 buyers or 10?
Well, you told me earlier in the transaction, and then earlier in the presentation here, that 10% is roughly a number that's kind of a rule of thumb that people for open houses. So if we had 10 people come, we might we'd get an offer, I would think, right? I'd be pretty happy with that.
Maybe. But what we have found on traditional price homes, that we're getting anywhere from 2 to 5 show up.
It's not going to give me an offer.
Probably not. So let's go to the easy method. Let's go to the easy method one there, Mike. All right, Trevor. So here we are, knowing that the buyer is going to pay the commission. We got the price at $389,000, which you saw is what we started with.
Yep.
So I'm at 410 or 389,000. How many buyers am I going to get through that open house at 389 versus 410?
I mean, obviously, if I'm looking at a house, which I am, because I have to move, and I know the market because I've been looking for years, for the last 2 years. So I see something at 389 in that neighborhood. I'm thinking I'm going to go. So if somebody else is going to want to go, I bet double. I bet you get 20 people to that open house.
Okay. 20 people, good. Maybe more, but
Yeah.
here's the cool thing about this. So I'm not going into anything else, Mike. Now I'm just dealing with the money. If I only get, is it safe to say if I have 20 people coming in, I'm going to get one bid?
I would hope so. 20
If
people
I
in the
get
open house.
just one bid, you were going to sell it traditionally with the other real estate at 400, and you were going to make 385,000.
Right,
Here,
I
I'll
pay you
come
guys
in.
commission.
What's that?
I got to pay your guys commission, so I walk out a little less. Yeah.
And then, you're only going to get 2 to 5 people probably show up to buy it inside of that 6 days. Maybe get an offer, maybe not, probably not. Here we are here. We're at 389,000. I only need one bid. Is it safe to say I'm going to get that bid? And look, you've already netted $3,500 more.
I'm already making more money right there.
Now, in this seller's case, let me show you what he did net at that bid price that he accepted. $451,500.
It seems like
Your
a
way-
trick. I don't know.
Not one seller's ever said that, buddy. So, but you're doing it though. If you want to do a traditional listing, I can certainly do that for you. You can net 385, or you can come in like this seller did and do it my way, and net $451,500, and you're gonna stick $80,000 more dollars in your pocket.
But I
And
got to
that-
lower
this-
my price to begin with, though, right?
Why are you asking that?
I'm nervous about the fact that I'm starting out. What if nobody comes in at all and I've got this
So
lower price than I
you're
wanted?
nervous about lowering it at 389 and making $3,500 more than you're going to make putting it at 400,000, 410,000?
Yeah, just in my head, I have a hard time realizing that lower price makes. I mean, I'm seeing what you guys are showing me with that. I feel like in my head, I just keep thinking, boy, I'm giving money away. It seems it's so low.
Okay, but
Remember, you've got the right to accept, reject, or negotiate anything that comes through.
that's not dealing with the issue.
Kind of is, because if it doesn't work,
No, the issue he's arguing about. I don't understand this. But I can tell you this, Trevor, because that's why you got to stay on these net sheets a little bit longer, Michael, so they understand and get compliance. I've never had anybody come and say, well, I'm not going to lower my price down by that point, because they
Right,
understand
earlier-
they're putting that
understand
much
by
more
now.
money in their pocket.
right? And they've actually, earlier in the conversation, he already said that he did understand it. Now he doesn't again. So I got to go
Yeah, but
back to.
Keep practicing. This is the great thing about this, guys, is that we got to keep practicing it, because if you're explaining it from an A to a Z point, you're not going to get these questions. But when you do get the questions, you got to deal with the elephant in the room. So why are you saying that, Trevor? And then he just said, there's a lot of numbers. I don't get it. So what he's telling you is he's already confused himself with the numbers on the presentation. All right, so let me go back from the beginning on the net sheet and go back to the 385 and the 389. So what you're telling me is that you would rather have a higher price, $410,000, right? And make him say it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd rather have that. Knowing that we're only going to get 2 to 5 buyers walk through it, right? Make them say, right. And with the science saying we need, 10% means I got a good chance of getting a half of an offer for you.
As opposed to getting 10 or more people in there and getting at least one offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reality of my guy said that would bring in 50, lowering it down $30,000. He said 50, he didn't say 20. So I just want to make sure that you understand me. So doing it your way, you're putting $385,000 in your pocket. And then you ask him, you agree with this, right? Trevor, you agree with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if I only get one bid at go to 389. And again, if you guys have this printed out, you can be just setting them side by side with each other.
Hold on a second. Somebody's at my house. I'm not expecting anybody. Give me a second here.
Okay. He was being awfully, awfully hard on you.
Well, that's good.
Well, I don't get those objections, but you just got to, if you do, from some smart, call them on it. You can't refute numbers. 389 my way, and you put $3,500 more in your pocket.
All right.
So I'd be happy to list this for 410 for you, and get lucky to get an offer, and you take it, or and then you got to come back to this. I don't understand. Why would you think that this is a problem? Why is a 389 a problem when you're putting $3,500 more in your pocket? You got to address it. You can't just say you have the right to accept. That's not answering the question. The question, he doesn't understand how the bid process works, and he doesn't understand the money going in his pocket. If somebody were to do that to me from there forward, I would say, so I'm going to be putting this amount of money in your pocket. Would you rather have $385,000 or $389,000 in your pocket? I said, I got my 2 pockets sitting here.
Yeah.
One of them's got 385,000, one's got 389,000. Choose the pocket. Do you want the pocket with the 385 or you want the pocket with the 389?
Which one do you want?
What's he gonna say to me?
389.
All right. So, and that's all this is.
Okay.
Yes, I get it why you're putting 389, but the science says we're gonna get 10% bids made. And in this case, there are 100 people. You got to set it. That's why you got to set it up at the beginning. So you can't refute 22 bids and 10 people getting pre-qualified at the open house at the 389.
Yeah, because that's what you
Thinking,
want.
Mr. Seller, isn't right. So I got to try to figure you're missing something. I got to figure out what you're missing. I get 2 to 5 people in the open house, or I get 100 people in the open house. What would you prefer? And a lot of sellers say, I don't like the reduction. It's like 2 to 5 to come in. All right. Well, if we know 10% of those are going to make an offer, how many offers can you expect? Well, best case, I can get a half of one.
So how many open houses am I going to have to do?
Yeah. How long is it going to be listed? How many open house? There's so many things you go to. Start throwing out red herrings to you. You have to deal with them. Don't answer them. Ask the question, why are you saying that? What did I miss? Because that's not right. Unless you don't care about money. Now, if you don't need to sell your home and you don't care about money, heck, we can put it up traditional for you.
It's
No,
just
I
not
want,
going to
of
be
course
as
I want
fast.
money.
Remember
Of
that
course.
6 days on market?
I wouldn't even bring that up. I just stick with the money.
Okay.
I have never, ever, ever, ever had a seller not understand. He's making more money, but I want to list it because it's a higher No, it's not the way it works. But you got to do a better job telling the story before you get into it.
Okay.
We have to deal with the white elephants that are brought up. And
Okay.
he's answering over you every time in this thing. Do you think he's listening to you when he's doing that?
No.
So nicely, is there a way for you to say, whoa, wait, slow. Man, I'm glad you're so excited. But don't outthink this. Let me get to what I need so that I can explain to you why you're even getting better benefits than this guy. He was very, very, very rigid and hard on you. I wouldn't have been this hard because half the stuff he's saying is nonsense.
Well, then this is good, but I feel like I'm
You
compared
are.
to the last time I'm better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zoom throws another wrench into it. That's why it's great to be face to face. You know, when you can show them, holy, I don't understand. 385 on this one at 410 and 389 on this one. So you don't want $3,500. Is that what you're saying? Because my job's really to make you the most money. But that being said, you have to say, well, let's talk about the seller. The 389. How many bids did he get on it?
22.
22 bids. So how many buyers do you think I had to have to get 22 bids?
10.
10 buyers. Exactly. And the very first one came in. Remember in the story, the very first one came in and wrote the 410. She wiped out half the field and left me with 5. But let's see what this 5 yielded and go back through the bidding thing again. And you'd even talk about that, you know, the Aaron was a cash deal.
Right. Figure out how to do that.
It's got to come in the story before you get started. All this. And now you're just backing up with what you just told them. You give them a condensed version. Now I'm going to show you how we make this work. And then when you're doing the MLS detail sheet, this home is worth $410,000. Period. Traditional. And that's when you start doing tie-ins. Tie it into his home. So we've agreed your home's already worth $500,000. If I list it for you at $500,000, how many buyers you think I'm going to get to walk through it?
2 to 5.
And they may say more, they may say less. I don't know, a couple. Okay.
The NAR says that we need
The
relative-
science behind people coming and seeing your house, 10% of them will make offers, you know, by NAR standards or EZ method, whatever you want to say.
Okay.
So if I get 2 to 5 people, how many offers can you expect?
Half.
A half offer?
Yeah.
Can you sell your home on a half offer? Can you move to Florida on a half offer?
No.
So now let me get into what the easy method is. And so we took this $400,000 home and I asked the seller at 410, we've already agreed 2 to 5 buyers, right?
Right.
Okay. What do I need to lower it down to get 25 to 50 buyers? You start doing the thing with how many buyers am I going to get? And normally when you say 400, you go down, well, 400 will get you probably 20 to 50. That's about right. I'd say that's about right. But how about if we wanted 100? You know, 75 to 100 people, what do I need to put it? And that's where they'll come back to that 380.
Right.
And that in a world, okay? And so when I get 100 people to come through the open house, how many offers can you expect?
10.
10. So in this case, we started at that. We had 100, I think it was 135 people that came to the open house. It was well over 100.
Wow.
I can tell you that. And in this case, 135 people came to the open house, plus 10 of them got pre-qualified before they ever walked out of the open house. The first bid was made before they left the open house. And remember, all this seller wanted was $400,000 doing it traditional. Here, I come in with a bid where the buyer's paying a commission on top of that. The very first bid's 410. She wiped out half the field. But my job for you, Mr. Seller, is to get action going out of the gate. When I talk to people about making bids on the site, I don't tell them just make the minimum bid. If you love this house, my seller is watching this, 724, put your best bid in there. And guess what, Mr. Buyer?
You may take it.
You can call me up and say, take it. It's their home.
He has the right to do that.
As a matter of fact, in this case, we got the $410,000 bid on the thing. He did do that. But my partner knew with 135 people walking through the house, 10 of them getting pre-qualified, that it was going to go up beyond the $410,000. I put it back in his court, started using Alan, started using Mr. However you want to do it. You trust me, right? I know the science behind this thing. I know there's more bids coming into this thing. Here it is Saturday. It ends on Monday. Let it ride out. And then more bids started coming in. And then more bids started coming in. Every time there was a bid, that seller was texting my partner, like with his head exploding. Oh my God, it's like I can go on a vacation. After another 4 or 5 bids, holy cow, I can pay for movers. And after another 4 or 5 bids, I can get a stinking car and do all that stuff. And then my partner went over to his house and sat with him the last 20 minutes. That Erin that's in there, the last bid she made, that was like right at 5 o'clock. It was supposed to end at 5. That bid was thrown in like 5 seconds before 5 o'clock. And guess what happened? No, we don't stop it there like everybody thinks, right, Mr. Seller? Every time somebody bids inside of 2 minutes, it adds another 2 minutes on to the clock. So because you always get these sneaky buyers, hey, I'm going to throw one in at the last minute and I'm going to get it. And guess what? Not with us. Not only are we representing you better by letting that happen, but we're also representing the other 9 buyers still in the game.
Give everyone 2 more minutes so I can make more money on my house.
Exactly. And this thing went on for 22. It's the exact word is 22 minutes more than the 5 o'clock. It ended at 5:22 with the final bid of $451,500. That extra money gave him a vacation, got him a car, paid for moving to Florida, and he went back to Florida and lived there for 6 months instead of having to find a home while it was closing. He had 6 months to go back there and do his rincon. And that's why this platform, but everything's got to be set up out of the gate. And then when they start having these goofy objections, you have to deal with them. And sometimes you have to go back and to the documents. Don't answer the question. Make sure you understand what the objection is. And basically what he was telling you is, I have no idea what you just told me for the last 10 minutes.
So let's go back so that you do understand what's going on.
Yeah, but you know, make sure he understands. So obviously I'm going too fast. I'm sorry, but I'm so excited about, you even say this one, I'm so excited about this process. So exciting to see what it does for you. So excited to see how much more money I can stick into your pocket. Because my job is to make you the most amount of money that you put in your pocket. And you do want that, right, Mr. Seller?
Of course I do.
And I'm doing my job correctly by doing that.
If objections come up inside there, stop the process and ask them. Find out why, Mike, he was saying that.
Okay.
Don't continue on and don't answer. Ask him because obviously you were misunderstanding what he was asking.
Right.
He basically didn't understand the numbers and he was lost. And that's what he was telling you. To me, that's the cool thing about that, right? Because you know that you got to slow down and you got to ask him more questions to make sure that you're getting compliance. Yes, I do understand that. So in closing, you guys, know the story backward, forward, and sideways. Take as much ownership as you can with it until you have your own. I'm going to show you what happened with this seller. Tie in as many things as you can with that seller with Alan, the seller of this property. If it's a guy in a coffee shop, oh yeah, he was just like you. I met him in a coffee shop. Did a for sale by? Oh yeah, that's what Alan was. It's expired. Oh yeah, that's what Alan was. Because I've done all of those things with people, and it all comes down to the same thing. How much more money are they going to stick in their pocket, and how much easier is a process for them? Remember, for right now, you guys are the only ones that have a platform like this to use. And
Yeah.
Trevor, I read you Trevor's text while he was sitting in NAR. So Trevor, is it going to make it a little easier for you when you start talking to buyers after going through that
Yeah.
thing?
Well, because in a couple of weeks, everyone's going to be pumping the new media with all this NAR stuff, and everyone else is going to be shying away from it. I'll be embracing it.
Yeah.
You know, all of your other agents going to be like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll be like, bring it on. Look, here it is. It's everything they want. There you go.
Tell Mike what you just in a nutshell, what you were at an NAR seminar. Or what were you?
Yeah.
At?
So my wife's law firm put on she's a real estate attorney, and they put on a training for agents for going over the settlement. So agents understood what was going on. So like hundreds of agents came. They did 2 sessions. It was a whole day long. And the lead off guy who came to talk for the first 3 hours was the lawyer from NAR. And he had a slide presentation. He was going right through the whole thing. And I'm literally texting Robert. I'm looking right at some of the texts. I'm like, I'm sitting here at this thing. Like, I can't believe it. It was everything he said. Trying to find exactly what I texted to him, because everything this guy was talking about was like everything we're talking about here, almost easier. The guy's talking about transparency. He's talking about the fact that sellers aren't going to be and don't want to and aren't going to be paying commissions. They're not going to be able to advertise commissions. That was the big one. And we talked about relocation a little bit and how a lot of these companies that work with buyers are going to be losing commissions. And everything he said basically was countered by EZ. I'm like, well, buyers aren't going to be losing commissions if they do it like this.
No.
And buyers will get 100% transparency if they do it like this. And sellers have the option to choose if they do it. I mean, all the things, the bullet points he kept putting up, I was just blown away. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, this is exactly what Robert and David are talking about like every week that I talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just, because again, I haven't got the same inside track that you do, but I am trying to pay attention to all the emails that are coming through about all this. And
It's a lot.
the method fixes it.
The site has become so much more prolific and easier to use because of the stuff that we take care of with the NAR. We actually are taking care of the whole industry. And right now, they're taking care of themselves. So
yeah, here's the message I wrote. I'm in a day-long training put on by my local board. I wish you guys had a table here because they're talking about transparency in the offers and the commission. The NAR lawyer says buyers need to see the offers put in before, so they know what they're paying for commission. They need to know what the progression of offers are. That's the transparency part. They need to know if they offer 410 or if they offer 49, what it's going to cost them. Right down the line, that was exactly what we had. And so I mean, it was. I even talked to the guy afterwards. I said, hey, what about, I just threw it out like I didn't know what I was talking about. What if I had a thing where like sellers could have their property on there and buyers pay a buyer premium of 6%? He was like, sounds great. He was like, that's exactly what they should be doing. Like he pretty much explained EZ to him without saying it was EZ. And he's like, that's exactly the way I do it. And I was like, okay, great. Good to hear. Thanks.
I remember Trevor was afraid of this. Tell him your story, Trevor, when we talked.
Oh, well, scared to death. I mean, I signed up for this thing. I
One
mean,
of the first ones.
one of the first ones, like a year and a half ago. I mean, I've known these guys, Robert and Dave, for 10 years, it seems. I was signed up right away, and then I was all like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then I got cold feet. I'm like, I've been doing this 20 years. I don't need to change anything. And I tried to mix my presentation with this a little bit, and it ruined it. I mean, I usually leave with a listing signed. And when I started screwing up the presentation, trying to mash them all together, confused the hell out of everybody. Nobody understood anything. So I left it alone for a while. I talked to a few of my friends to sign up for it, but because I can explain it to the realtors, I couldn't explain it myself to a buyer or the seller, or the other agents that were coming against me. And then we had one that we did, and the agents didn't understand. I was like, this is crazy. Then Robert made this call about 3-4 months ago, and he's like, what the hell, dude? You signed up, you paid for this thing. Why aren't you using it? I'm like, because I don't really know. I'm nervous. I don't want to change anything. I'm not sure what to say exactly. And, I did it. So then about 3 weeks ago, he calls me up and he was like, we're training you like this. Here's the booklet. Read it. And I've been printing out 10 pages a week for the last couple of weeks, reading through these things. And, I'm much more eager now to go do the first listing presentation just with EZ. When I have a listing presentation, I've been using forever. I don't like changing it, but I'm going to completely scrap it and go all in 100% for the first couple of appointments with this presentation, just because it's got to work, because I'm not screwing it up with mashing my own stuff in there. I'm going all in going all in 100% EZ. I'm not going to do my normal presentation. My normal presentation kills, but I'm going to completely, and I think you have to. There's no other way to get the sellers on board.
Makes too much sense to do it the way that Robert is explaining it.
Makes too much sense.
It's an actual frickin' transaction, and we're able to, to show all the numbers, all the process, everything is there, all the proof.
Well, you can have all the proof and all the numbers, but the way Robert's got it in the order here, in the progression of using it basically like the story, for me is what has made me more comfortable about being able to bang this out, because I can show people numbers, I can show people net sheets, I can show people a bunch of stuff, but if I'm not telling it in the right order, I'm not explaining it right, and I'm not giving some anecdotes for them to remember and tie it in with, I'm gonna have a hard time convincing them, because even I have a hard time thinking about it in my head. But when you go with the story that's here, and you sort of go in order, and like Robert says with the question, I'm seeing now with the live presentation here with the questions, push them off, ask them why would you think such crazy things? Where'd you hear that? Move it down the line, get them excited about the end. You know, when we get to the end here, I'm going to blow your mind, because all those questions are going to make a lot of sense. You won't even have them anymore. So let's get through to that part, if that's okay with you, type of thing. So, but it's the order. It's the order he's got it here. I think once you get a seller to go through that and you do it right, there's no way that they would think anything else.
Robert has done this hundreds of times. We're able to benefit from his experience and him making those mistakes and knowing what works and what doesn't. So we just need to listen and do what he says. You know, just like I said at the very beginning of this thing, I'm an old dog. I'm learning a new trick.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you hear you exactly. And I got agents in my market that are all old dogs. They're in Vermont here. So like, I think everybody at first, when I first signed up for it, using it, it was tough to think about even. But then the NAR transaction thing happened, the settlement. I was like, oh, that actually makes all the questions answered right away that the agents ask. Just shoots them out. They're not even there anymore. Knocks them out of the sky. So the NAR settlement was good, even though I hate it, because it just puts more bad crap in the news. It really makes this, what we're doing, pretty
The only
fantastic.
game in town.
The only game in town. And I think that is, you know, there's a couple of competitors in my market doing a similar, but not even quite the same. They don't have the platform. They're doing everything else but the actual platform piece, which is where the whole thing fits together. And these guys are half-assing what they're doing, and I think they're robbing their sellers, if you ask me. And once the lawsuit thing kicks in, everybody sees it in the news, their unique selling proposition is going to go right down the tubes. And this is going to be the way to do it. And like you're saying in your presentation, we used to do it like this. I mean, Hubzu, all the US HUD, all those offers we used to do back in the early 2000s, they were all through websites with buyer premiums.
Yep.
Every foreclosure, every one of them was done through. I mean, Hubzu was, I can remember putting Hubzu offers in all the time and telling the buyers to get a buyer premium. You had to sign the addendum and everything.
Yeah.
Get in the US HUD, same thing. It's not new at all. It's actually the way real estate was kind of done for a long time.
Yeah.
But
the redact
try to change
option?
real estate agents. Yes, right, exactly. But try to change real estate agents' minds. We're not that smart when it comes down to doing things to help ourselves. We do a lot of stuff to shoot ourselves in the foot on the way, but we won't help ourselves apparently. So
one more question for you guys. Is the easy method a better way to sell a home for a seller, or the traditional way?
Yes.
No, 100%.
100%.
Why? Mike, go first.
Because you are able to actually have the market tell you what the price of the home is, and people who want the house will pay for it. And if there's more than one person that wants to pay for it, they keep bidding and the price goes up.
Trevor?
I mean, similar, obviously, with this setup, the seller has the opportunity to make more money if they understand the marketing, what's behind it. Not only that, they actually get to see the offers in real time. So it looks like we're doing our job, which is awesome. And third, they can pick whatever they want. So if they get cold feet, they don't want to go any lower, and they got someone offer that's 50 grand over, take it. You know, they have their own, they have the choice. They're not stuck. And with an auction, you're stuck. And with traditional, you're stuck, because we're trying to get an offer with the highest price, not necessarily is the best terms for the seller. This here, they can kind of choose both.
You guys are amazing. Let me know when you guys are both ready to do it. I've got the class on Wednesday. You guys do not need to come to that. I suggest you work on it. So homework, put stuff in a chronological order, which you've done for the most part. Make sure that you understand the story backward and forward before you get it. I'm going to tell the story and then I'm going to back it up with facts.
Where do I find the printout of the MLS sheet?
It's all in the training portal. So,
okay.
All right, you guys, let me know Wednesday when we can do it. Classroom's going to go for like an hour and a half. That's it. So that's 10 to 11:30. So, and I'm available anytime after that up till 3, my time.
Okay. All right. So
All right.
hey, Trevor,